The first thing Arman Hale noticed that morning was the sound of children crying. Not loud, not wild, but soft and steady, like two tiny hearts breaking in perfect rhythm. He froze halfway down the gravel path of the private cemetery, the winter sun hanging pale and cold above the hills. This place was supposed to be silent, sacred, locked behind iron gates and guarded fences. No one came here except him. Yet there they were. Two little girls, no older than 7, kneeling beside his son's grave. Their small hands were folded tightly, heads bowed, thin sweaters fluttering in the chilly morning breeze. Between them lay a wilted bunch of wildflowers, clearly picked from somewhere along the road. One of them was whispering something toward the marble headstone, lips trembling like she was begging heaven itself. Arman's chest tightened so hard he could barely breathe. This was his land. His loss. His pain. No one else belonged here. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that touch the soul, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to One Heart Stories. Your support keeps these heartfelt stories alive. Arman Hale was not a man used to confusion. At 48, he owned half the city's skyline. Hospitals, tech companies, real estate towers. His name was etched into glass and steel everywhere. People feared him, respected him, envied him. But nothing, not money, not power, had saved his only son. 3 years earlier, a drunk driver had run a red light. One crash. One phone call at midnight. One white sheet in a hospital hallway. And Ethan Hale was gone. Since that day, Arman had stopped being human. He worked like a machine. Ate alone. Slept little. Smiled never. Every Sunday morning, he visited the grave at sunrise, before the world woke up, because he couldn't bear strangers watching a billionaire cry. But today, strangers were already there. 2 children. Praying. For his son. Anger surged through him first. Who let them in? Were they beggars trying to steal sympathy? Did someone send them? He stepped closer, shoes crunching loudly on gravel. The girls flinched, but didn't run. That surprised him. Up close, he saw how thin they were. Identical faces. Same dark braids. Same oversized shoes. Their cheeks were red from cold, but their eyes were full of something older than childhood. Grief. Real grief. Not the kind you fake. They weren't touching anything. They weren't asking for money. They weren't even looking around. They were just praying. The headstone read, Ethan Hale. Beloved son. You were our light. The smaller twin gently wiped dust off the letters with her sleeve. Something inside Arman cracked. Who were they to care this much? He remembered Ethan at that age, laughing, chasing butterflies, begging to adopt every stray dog he saw. Ethan had been soft where Arman was sharp. Kind where Arman was cold. Too kind for this world, Arman used to think. The girls finally noticed him standing there. Their faces paled, but instead of fear, something like hope flickered across them. That confused him even more. They stood slowly, clutching each other's hands. Arman expected excuses or lies. Instead, the taller one held out a small folded paper with shaking fingers. A hospital bill. Old. Crumpled. Paid in full. His company's foundation logo stamped at the top. A memory stirred. Years ago, before Ethan died, his son had convinced him to secretly fund treatments for poor families through the hospital charity. Ethan personally chose cases. Personally visited wards. Personally paid bills. Arman had forgotten most of them. But Ethan hadn't he? And apparently, neither had these girls. The paper showed their mother's name. Cancer treatment. Emergency surgery. Total cost, impossible for a street vendor. Paid anonymously. Date, 2 weeks before Ethan's accident. The smaller twin pointed at the grave, tears rolling down her cheeks. Arman felt his knees weaken. He understood. They weren't here for charity. They were here because Ethan had saved their mother. Because to them, he wasn't a billionaire's son. He was a hero. Every Sunday, they must have been coming to thank him. Thank a boy who wasn't alive to hear it. The weight of it crushed Arman's chest like concrete. For 3 years, he had believed the world forgot his son. Believed Ethan died for nothing. Believed all that kindness had been useless. But here were 2 living, breathing miracles proof that Ethan's heart still beat in other lives. Arman staggered back and collapsed onto the cold stone bench. For the first time since the funeral, he sobbed openly. Not the silent tears of a rich man protecting his image. But broken, ugly, helpless crying. Because his son hadn't disappeared. He had multiplied. In strangers. In saved lives. In these 2 little girls who brought wildflowers instead of roses. The girls slowly stepped closer and placed the flowers on the grave again, then surprised him by gently hugging his arm, like children comforting a father. And in that simple touch, Arman felt something return. Warmth. Purpose. Breath. The next weeks changed everything. He reopened Ethan's charity program and expanded it 10 times larger. Free clinics. Scholarships. Food drives. He personally visited patients the way Ethan used to. He learned the twins' names Lena and Mara and made sure their mother received stable work and housing. But more importantly, every Sunday morning, the cemetery was no longer silent. 3 figures now knelt together under the daylight sun. A father. And 2 little girls. All praying for the same boy. Not in sorrow. But in gratitude. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and comment to support the channel and spread kindness to others who may need hope today. Special request, comment kindness lives on if you believe even one good deed can change the world, because sometimes, the people we lose don't really leave us. They simply become the reason we learn how to love again.